My next short-term price target, which means 1 month or less, is... Alright, welcome to Talking Investing. I am Tom. This is not financial advice. Today I want to talk to you about a company named CleanSpark, stock ticker CLSK. CleanSpark is a Bitcoin mining company, and this has been by far my most requested video. So I wanted to get a CleanSpark video out today because they had a press release last week that was massively significant. And I think you had to read between the lines just a little bit. So I want to do that. I want to go through that with you and tell you what I think it means. And I want to go through their chart with you because I think that they have recently broken out of a long-term trend and they are now trending to the upside. So I want to go through that, show you where we've been and where I think we're headed. I'm going to go through a few previous press releases to put this press release in perspective. This was January 5th, 2021. So this was 9.5 months ago. And all I want to point out is this one. So at the beginning of this year, they were at about 0.2 exahash in mining capacity. Then I want to fast forward to April 15th. This press release was monumental, and it was a game changer. CleanSpark purchases 22,680 additional Bitcoin miners and anticipates 3.2 exahash capacity after deployment. So it'll be the middle of 2022 before all these are deployed, but now you're talking about a company that on January 25th was at 0.2 exahash per second, and with these machines fully implemented over the course of the next year, they're going to be at 3.2 exahash. That is a 16x in their ability to mine Bitcoin. So just to put things in perspective, something around a 1.5x would be a high growth company. This is a 16x from the beginning of 2021 till the middle of 2022. It's almost even hard to put that into perspective. And that brings us to last week's press release. So this is October 12th and today is October 18th, Monday morning. So CleanSpark uses Bitcoin to fund 4,500 newest generation miners. They now just made another purchase of 0.45 exahash or 450 petahash per second. So that brings them up to 3.85 exahash per second sometime in mid to late next year. We're getting very close to them 20xing the amount of hash rate that they had from the beginning of 2021 to the third quarter of 2022. So again, these are astronomical numbers. They use a lot of their own technology from the microgrid side of this company to improve their performance in the Bitcoin mining side. Their gross margins should continue to improve as they implement their own technology on energy efficiency. So what's so special about this press release? So they did something here that no other North American miner has done to my knowledge this year. Certainly, if they have done it, they haven't done it to this extent. And what that is they used their Bitcoin to buy these new machines. In line with the interest of its shareholders, by selling some of its Bitcoin, CleanSpark is converting a portion of its BTC holdings into Bitcoin miners to increase revenues. So that is a little bit different strategy than what everybody else is doing. And at first glance, most investors probably don't like that because, as you know, all of the Bitcoin mining companies in North America right now have a hodling strategy and they are retaining as many of their Bitcoin as they possibly can. Now, CleanSpark also has a hodling strategy. So long term, it is their objective to hold as many Bitcoin as they can. So why did they break this strategy? To explain that, I need to show you this. Back in June, I believe this was on June 3rd, they announced an at-the-market shelf offering of up to $500 million. So their current market cap is, I believe, about $580 million. So for them to raise $500 million has definitely had investors spooked. And this stock has been beaten down past anything that makes mathematical sense, just as an emotional response, in my opinion, to this looming $500 million at-the-market offering. So, if we get back to our press release, they just bought 4,500 state-of-the-art miners, and they spent the Bitcoin that they have on their balance sheet. And the reason that they did that, in my opinion, was to send a very clear message. They have access to $500 million on a shelf offering at the market. So they could have paid for those by simply just issuing shares of stock. But as I've been saying, if you've been watching my videos in the past, CleanSpark is not going to give away their stock at $11 or $12. Or even now they're at $15 or $16. So they've chosen, rather than raise this money by diluting stock at a $15 share price, they're actually willing to sell some of their most precious asset, which is their Bitcoin. So to me, this demonstrates a monumental commitment to not diluting the stock of this company. So some of the things to remember about the at-the-market shelf offering are, there's two critical things. The first one is they can issue stock, typically it says from time to time at a time of their choosing. So they are not required to do this at any given time. They can wait as long as they want. And the other thing is, they don't ever have to do it. So if the timing isn't right and they don't need the money, or if they only need 200 million, not 500 million, they only need to issue shares and dilute the company to the extent to which they need the cash to do so. Now, a $500 million offering tells me that at that time, they were planning on, with some proper growth in their stock price, they were maybe planning on buying machines to get up to somewhere, in the 10 or 12 exahash range, which would be quadruple what they're doing right now. That's what $500 million can do. Depending on the price, this could get them anywhere from 10 to 15 exahash, making them one of the largest companies. They have not made those arrangements. They have not secured that, but they have secured almost 4 exahash by mid to late 2022. They've been very judicious with this money, and you can see this was an incredibly clear signal to say we are not diluting the stock. I remain confident that they've used very little of their shelf offering at the market, even though they have access to $500 million. I believe they have taken very little of that money, and they have done very little dilution on their stock. Over the course of this year, their market cap was on a downward spiral. They were up over $1 billion in market cap back in January. Now, if you remember, in January, they were at 0.2 exahash of Bitcoin mining. So since that, they've worked themselves up to a point where they're actively mining over 1 exahash. So that's a 5x from then till now. And they have purchase orders in place to get to nearly 4 exahash, which would be somewhere between a 19 and 20x from where they were when their market cap was $1 billion. So there's two things that don't make sense to me here. This company has clearly created massive additional sources of revenue for themselves. They have also dramatically increased their gross profit margin, because the profit margins on mining Bitcoin for them are very large. As of June 30th, their overall gross profit margin was 70%, and I expect that to go up to over 80% in the near future. So they're creating a massive amount of more revenue, they're creating a massive amount of more gross profit, and yet their market cap has declined radically. And a lot of people will point to that and say, well, they did an at-the-market offering. So an at-the-market offering is going to dilute each individual share of stock. What it does not do is decrease the overall market cap of a company. So in other words, if they went out and grabbed this $500 million the very first day, that would not decrease their market cap. They would have an extra $500 million. That would increase their market cap. It would dilute each shareholder's individual share, but the company would clearly be worth more money if it had an extra $500 million sitting in the bank. Right now, this is zoomed out to the entire year. So you'll see back here in January, like we talked about, when their market cap was over $1 billion, they were trading at over $42 a share. So this is a big picture look at what has happened this year. And I show you this because I want to show you that there has been a breakout last week, and I think we're just in the beginning of a bull run for CleanSpark stock. This purple trend line starts right about here, which was back around March 17th, which was about 6 months ago. So you can see this trend line over the last 6 months has been a line of resistance a very strong line of resistance for CleanSpark stock. So they have been on a slow decline for the last 6 months. And if you look, they've hit this here, 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 almost hit it here, here again. So this line held as resistance 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different times over 6 months. So this was an incredibly strong line of resistance. Right here on about October 7th, which was just about 2 weeks ago, we broke through that line to the upside. We've since retested it, and we are clearly now broken out of that downward trend line. So that was a 6-month bearish cycle for this stock, and I believe we are now just at the beginning of a bull run for this stock. So having said that, I'm going to zoom in. I'm zooming into the 3-month chart on this stock. The last time I did a video was just under a month ago, somewhere around here. So we were trading under $12 at that point. At that time, I have not changed a line on this chart since my last video. So at that time, at somewhere around $11.50, I had put a short-term price target of $15.68, which is this green line right here. So in the month since we've made that video, we have hit that line, and we've held that line, and I think we've turned that into a line of support. So that was our short-term goal, and it has happened. But from the bottom on September 29th to where we are right now, that is a 47% increase in the price of CleanSpark's stock. So there has been massive upside, and I think that we're only just getting rolling here. My next short-term price target, which means 1 month or less, is this blue line at $20.73. So if we go from where we are today up here, that's another 28.5%. So nearly 30% upside just to get to this next price target, which I believe we're going to get to within the next month, provided Bitcoin stays healthy. So obviously, in the big picture, Bitcoin seems to be in the middle of a monster bull run. I don't think Bitcoin needs to go to crazy prices for us to hit our price target. I think if it can stay healthy above $60,000, we will get to this $20.73 price target. So that's my short-term price target. My long-term price target is much higher than that, but for the meantime, I think it's more useful to look at my 1-month price target because things are changing very fast inside of the Bitcoin space. So those are my thoughts on CleanSpark. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in the next video.